All right. Welcome back to Private Practice Practically. On today's episode, we have a very special guest, Amanda Wallingsford. Amanda, welcome.
Hello, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Amanda, for the people that don't know you, would you mind telling us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Yeah, so I am a licensed marriage and family therapist and approved supervisor, essentially by trade. I've been in the field for about 30 years if we count me starting my career in volunteering in high school and college. And so currently I have two roles and I have two companies. With those two roles, I have a full-time private practice, six-figure practice. And then I also have my Align and Embody Institute for Transformation, where I help therapists and wellness practitioners build out their impact and their income beyond one-to-one hourly services.
Wow. I love that. I definitely want to get into that, Amanda, if you're okay with that.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah, before we get into that, I'd like to kind of ask about you. What motivated you to become a therapist? And then in your journey, like what motivated you to start with the beyond the one-on-one?
Okay, yeah. So I knew I wanted to be some counselor of sorts since sixth grade. I saw struggles in my community, I saw struggles in my family where my soul already knew its calling. And so I started studying psychology in high school. Then I went to undergrad and studied human and organizational development and then child and adolescent development. Um, with the fantastic advice from an advisor to go out into the field and then decide what's licensure or track I wanted to do. So I did that. And went immediately into case management and uh, went on to program director, things like that, and then eventually decided on marriage and family therapy. And so healing and helping be a part of healing has always been a part of my life. And then about 5 years ago, over my history of using, integrating leadership and being trainers to therapists, being a supervisor, all that, and having my undergrad in that, I then realized I wanted to go down that path simultaneously and help therapists. Originally, it was very broad and just kind of help therapists build their business. And it's been evolution over the years to really get clear that my passion is helping build more offers, services, and products outside of one-to-one. And there's lots of reasons, which I'm sure we'll get into. But really being able to help therapists and wellness practitioners maximize their expertise by being able to serve more people while also building more revenue streams so that it can support their life to actually do this work for years and years to come.
Wow. Yeah, that's quite the resume and quite the adventure, I think, to be part of the agency like you talked about,
Mhm.
and then be the director. Um, Before, when you were in that position, your direct role, you weren't in private practice, were you, at the time? Like you were in the
Yeah, so one of them, I was a program director in San Diego, and maybe program manager was the title. They were essentially the same thing. And at the time, I actually did have private practice on the side
Gotcha.
for about 5 to 7 hours a week.
Got it.
And then when I moved to Texas, which was about 11 years ago to the day, maybe 12 years ago, I was a program director and I had not gone into full-time private practice or even part-time yet. That took a couple years to decide that switch.
Gotcha. And what kind of motivated you to decide to just go all in on private practice?
Actually, it was kind of funny. I got laid off from a company.
What?
Uh-huh. So I had been wondering, I had done the math, should I? And then one day I got called into the office and they're like, we're letting you go. They had decided I had been hired for a specific role for a specific unit to lead that unit, and they decided to get rid of the entire team that day and go a different direction. So yes, it was quite a surprise. And I cried for a day or two, and then I was like, okay, I'm gonna open my business here in Texas. So
Wow. What was that like? The journey from uh being let go essentially to
yeah.
like starting practice. It sounds like you didn't have much of a choice. I mean, I'm sure you could have, found another job. But what was it like starting your private practice with so much experience? Like, what did you find it to be maybe a little easier-ish? Or
Um, yeah. So, and I could have gotten another job, and I looked, and I think I applied to a couple, but when I really looked at it, I did the math, and even looking at joining some private practices and doing a split uh situation, I was really ready. I was like, I have the opportunity. Life has gifted me the opportunity to go all in because I'm not doing anything during the day. And so I figured out credentialing, and I figured out, because I was very comfortable with taking insurance. I had already had experience with that, by running the Medicaid clinic in Texas, I mean, in California. Um, I think, like we all have to do, I was really nervous that first week or two, and then I was like, I've got this. I am skilled. It's going to take time to build a caseload, but let me learn how to open a business. And I learned some
Mm,
marketing to do my website,
yeah.
a little bit. I didn't go like all in, but enough to get started. Let me get my credentialing done and get on those lists. And I think I was full within about 6 weeks. Not 6 weeks, 6 months.
Oh, I was like,
So,
wow, that's
yeah,
great.
that would have been a miracle. So,
Wow, yeah. So, one thing that you said that stood out to me was you said, I've been gifted this opportunity, and I think that differs from the way maybe other people see it, which is like they kind of, you know, um,
yeah.
don't see it that way, right? Don't see these things as opportunities to grow and to expand and to finally launch forward, and I'm
Hmm.
sure in your experience as a leader in the agency, you certainly thought about it because you were doing it,
Yeah.
and so yeah, it's interesting that you saw it that way, like this was a gift. Is that a mindset that you've always had, Amanda, or is that something that you kind of cultivated over time?
I think it's cultivated over time. I've been
Mm,
through a lot of difficult situations in my life. And of course, when they happened when I was younger, I didn't see them as gifts.
mm,
I think over time, I learned to look for beauty in things. I mean, I think I've always naturally looked for beauty in people. Um, but it started then looking at life events. And it is not, I do not believe in toxic positivity and just kind of putting a brush stroke over it and say, well, just be positive. I tried that when I was younger. It didn't work. But it was, okay, how do I hold this? This really sucks. This was not the plan I had. And, ooh, what can I do? And that is
mm.
definitely a question I get. Um, a question that is definitely a question I ask myself. And I've seen enough evidence in my life that I am capable of making things happen if I look for the opportunity.
Wow.
But that, oh, that also comes with that history of wins and getting lots of wins and seeing successes.
Yeah, and that reminds me of something David Goggins says, and he says, reach into the cookie jar, and he
Mm.
describes what you're saying and this idea of like having a cookie jar. And when you're in the struggle, in his case, he runs a lot.
Uh-huh.
He's like, I mentally reach into my cookie jar of things that I've done and the wins that I've had.
Mm.
And so I think that's really awesome that, you and him have that in common, that the winning mindset, in this regard is about being able to see back into your history and remind yourself,
Yeah.
like, I have done hard things before. I've done these challenges. I have overcome. I have won,
Yeah.
and I think that's awesome. Um, okay. So you started your private practice. You went all
Yeah.
in, pretty
Hmm.
full within 6 months.
Hmm.
What was the experience kind of, growing that? And then how soon after you started did you maybe hire a new clinician or get an intern?
No, I've never hired anybody. I think originally I thought about doing a group practice. I've never hired a clinician. Let's see, that was 2018. So what are we at? 26. Um, I started hiring a VA a few years in where they helped with claims. Um, but getting into it, it's been interesting. Here's why I'm pausing, is it has historically been a very full, robust schedule. I had a wait list for months, and then I figured out I didn't want to do wait lists because I wanted people to get out and get their services. But the landscape has really changed
Mm.
in the last couple years. And I'm hearing this from therapists of all experience levels, all private pay, some taking insurance, that the landscape has changed where, the high deductible plans, people are, come January, kind of used to it now is the caseload's going to go down because they're going to be like, I can't afford that every
Mm.
week. Um, and the referrals have gone down, which has been interesting. And I've been hearing across the board that referrals are down. And that could be because insurance is so high, but private pay as well. We've got, when the economy changes, some things in our industry change. So it really has prompted me to look at how to do business smart. And then a significant life event happened about 5 years ago where I also realized that I had to do business differently rather than relying on hourly sessions that required me to be sitting there and the client to be sitting in front of me. Where it was like, oh, I need to not be kind of handcuffed in this model, because if they don't show up and I can't show up, I don't pay my bills.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm not even kidding when I say this, that when you use the word handcuffed, I actually got the goosebumps
Really?
because it's so true, right? Like if your clients don't show up, if it's Christmas week and you know what I mean? They're like, I'll be there. And then come Tuesday of Christmas week and they don't show up, like you just missed out on that hour, not only
Right.
in terms of money, but also with time with your family, and like,
Yeah. Yeah.
wow, that's that. And so when you said handcuff, like in some way, yeah, I can see that where it's like you kind of are beholden to the practice and the client. And not that it's a bad thing, right? Um, but there is something to be said about that for sure. And Amanda, I like to kind of go back to something you said earlier. You said there was a life event that happened. Do you
Hmm.
mind sharing a little bit about what
Yeah.
happened?
Not at all. Not at all. I think, it's sharing part of my story to, um, I think to highlight that we all go through things, or we have the chance of going through something that can really open your eyes to the reality of what's important and what needs to be prioritized. And so in 2020, I had a baby boy. He's my only biological son or biological child. And he was born with a condition called Noonan syndrome. Noonan syndrome is something where some people have it and they have no idea they have it, and some people have it and don't survive. And so he was born. We knew this, thankfully, ahead of time, that there were going to be potential potential. I just lost the word.
Risks, maybe.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
It started with a C, but I
Complications.
lost it.
Yeah,
Complications. Yes, thank you.
got it.
It is in the afternoon where my brain cells start getting
Hey,
fuzzier.
all good.
So, so we knew he was going to have complications, and he, unfortunately, I'm trying to think of what details to share here. End result is he lived 98 days, and then we had to take him off machines and send him on his way to get his angel wings.
Mm.
And what was very unique, this was 2020. He was born right before COVID hit. And So all of a sudden, not only do I have a child in the hospital because he never came home, he lived in the hospital the whole time. I have a child in the hospital. We've also got shut down, and clients are, I'm not able to see them in person because I can't get my child sick, can't bring in anything. Um, and clients aren't wanting to come, so we switched to virtual. And beautiful thing is there was a lot of flexibility in that. It gave me more flexibility. The eye-opening thing was that they were saying that he could be in the hospital for up to a year. I had not financially planned. My husband and I didn't financially plan for a year-long break.
Mm,
And so I had to, I don't want to say I had, kind of, I don't like to use this word. I needed to weigh
mm,
income and this long-term plan that we maybe had to prepare for. And so went back to work sooner on a light caseload, I think about 10 or 12, but I was literally doing sessions in my car in the hospital parking lot.
what?
Hmm.
Wow.
So I would be with him. I do overnight shifts a lot. My husband would do the day shifts. And because they only allowed one of us in the hospital.
Mm,
And I do night shifts and sometimes do the day when he couldn't, and would go do my sessions in the parking lot, do an hour at a time, go back in and whatnot. And so a piece of my story there is this reality of, oh, I literally can't pay bills if I don't work. And this cannot last until I am ready to retire. This will not work because more life events are going to happen. And my capacity is lower. Like, I had a lot less capacity and it's declined, as I've gotten older. And so realized I have so many gifts that I can monetize and still enjoy and love what I do, but I cannot be reliant on just these sessions. I need income coming in, that we call it a lot of times passive income, which I call it passive-ish income because there still takes work to get it going and getting it to be a well-oiled machine and whatnot. Um, but I realized the need for switching this business model. And then that naturally ended up, I threw myself in to learn and learn and learn. And that naturally opened the doors to my new favorite niche, which is to help therapists also do the same because there is such high burnout and yet so much talent that the world can benefit from, that I hate seeing therapists burn out when they have more to give. It's just about switching that business model so it's not so draining, so that they can be, want to do this career for years. Because I'm seeing all over the place in social media platforms, therapists are questioning whether or not they should even be in this field anymore. And that's just a shame because they have things that they can gift this world if done in a more strategic way.
wow, Amanda, I'm just kind of blown away that first of all, thank you for that. I mean, such a tough spot to be in, I think, for any parent. Um, and I hold on, just give me a second. It's like, oh, that's rough. You know the story. All right. So you're in the hospital parking lot at times, seeing clients, and somewhere in there, you're like, this is not it. I can't do this, right? Like, I cannot be focused, or I'm sorry, beholden to the one-on-one and with the situation that you had going on, and you realized
Mhm.
that that was probably not the best move, or that there was probably a better alternative. And then you mentioned something that stood out to me. You said you devoted yourself to learning and learning. What did you do? Like, did you take seminars? Did you go to classes? Like, what was that learning?
Yeah. Um, the first thing, well, I dove into two things at once. Um, And the first was, I had a friend who also lost a child, and she had written a book, and there was also something very spiritual, very kind of highest self-awareness happening, which was that I was okay. And when I had lost people before, I was not okay. I was severe PTSD, depression, anxiety.
Mm.
And so I got really curious, like, how am I okay?
Mm.
How I've just lost my child. I've just said goodbye to my child. How am I okay? And so a book came together called Embody Your Worth. I looked back and was like, oh, because I know I still have me. So that's what one topic there. So I was like, ooh, and then I'll make money from a book, which we can talk about later. If you make a lot of money from a book, don't rely on that as being your main income stream. So I thought, okay, I'm going to write a book, which ended up taking me a couple years longer than I thought as well. And then simultaneously, I enrolled in a program to get a coaching certificate, and it was specifically designed also for therapists transitioning into coaching. And in that program is a very robust program. It also included business learnings. So how to set up your goals, how to set up, your KPIs, things like that. And I thought getting this certification, I was seeing all these coaches make all this money. And so I thought, ooh, okay, I'll do that. And that's how I'll bring in more money and start developing more things. I wanted to do a group program, which I've done, but that was my main goal.
Yeah.
And then I started it not going the way that I thought. I thought I would learn this in 1 year. And then that just really highlighted what else I didn't know and what wasn't being taught in the industry. And so I dug into more, did more trainings, and so I have learned that there's a lot more to just creating a new offer or service and just putting it out there and hoping people buy it. There's a lot of behind the scenes stuff. So that's what I have just been gathering all the information to figure out how to do, which is also extremely applicable to running a private practice, and especially
Mm.
if you're private pay. It's the same stuff. It's just different products or services.
Wow. Yeah, and it's so interesting that you say that, Amanda, because I have heard, just, I'm involved in the Facebook groups in the clinician world and
Uh-huh.
kind of seeing what's going on. And a lot of people talk about that. They say that, there's coaching programs out there that kind of just give you a little sliver of whatever the topic is, whether it's business related or clinical or whatever, and it just seems like as a person who's trying to advance themselves, it takes real effort to try to kind of put it all together. Um,
It
yeah,
does. It does.
is that kind of what you notice as well?
Yes, absolutely, which is how I have created the program that I have now. That first program was very robust and I got so much out of it. I actually enrolled, I think 3 years. And then kind of like, if you don't know, you don't know. And what I experienced was there would be, we would be taught ideas of how we could bring in clients, and they just didn't match who I was or who I am. And I started feeling like a failure. And then so I would sign up for this course over here on, like, I remember my book coach, for example, said, start your email list now. So I did. I opened up an email list, and everybody who bought my book got put on my email list, but I didn't know what I was writing about.
Mm.
And I didn't know who I was writing to. And so that was a huge piece that was missing, is really helping me hone in on who I serve and how I serve.
Mhm.
Because the other element was I couldn't figure out how coaching was different from therapy. I just was really struggling with that ethical line, because
Yeah.
I didn't want to go just use another system, but be unethical that's actually therapy under this new price tag. And so I started seeing these things missing. Yes, an email list is great if you know what you're writing and who you're writing to and what value it creates for the reader. Doing keynote speeches, that is great. I could go do more keynote speeches on my book, but is that going to bring me in the clients that I want to serve now? And so these things, and so what I ended up doing was filling the gap. And I created an entire program that teaches all of it and fills in all of it from A to Z, because so much is fragmented out in the world. And then what I love is that it's also recognizing the unique experiences of therapists and wellness practitioners. But instead of getting excited and rolling in this $297 course, and I'm going to learn how to do my social media. Well, I enrolled in those courses, but again, didn't know who I was speaking to. It was like, well, this sounds nice. Let me share my day. That doesn't bring in a buyer. That maybe brings in new friends, but not a buyer to your ideal product, or what I call is your soul-led product.
Ooh, yeah.
Soul-led
So much.
offer.
Yeah, there's so much there to unpack. But before we kind of dive into that, which I definitely am looking forward to, I like to kind of go back a little bit to when you had this realization.
Okay.
And something you mentioned in that is that a lot of clinicians also kind of share some of that burnout, or that realization, and they might not really know which direction to go into. I've also heard people respond to that by saying, hey, if you want to make more money, just see more people, right? Like the standard caseload, what is it, like 20 hours, 25 hours, something like that. And I think the field has that caseload volume for a reason, right? Like, because the work that clinicians do can be so heavy. And then there's those, like I said, that are like, well, dude, just see 10 more clients, like work on the weekends, like work more, like make more money, right? What is the risk from receiving kind of advice like that?
Ooh, that's a great question. I think the first risk is that you then start believing that you're a failure if you can't do it, that you are incompetent, that you are not as skilled. The second risk is that it's not acknowledging that your energy, two pieces here, your energy does not necessarily equate to 1 hour in the job that we do, and I can explain that, but also that your energy is not going to be the same. And that's what I really realized with Ashton is, after losing Ashton, I did not have the same capacity like I did when I was 26 running a youth runaway shelter and could work 80 hours a week and still go to school. Like, I just don't have the same capacity, and I don't want to anymore, and so the second risk is not really recognizing that capacity makes a difference. The third risk then is your clients then suffer, and maybe not very, clearly, like it may not be so obvious, but we're not our best selves when we're depleted. We're not our best therapists when we're depleted. And so it really does a disservice to our clients if we are overextending ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. In your experience, Amanda, have you kind of come to realize or see some of the myths that people believe around sustainability and the way they design their practice?
Yeah. Yeah. And I bought into them for a really long time, and sometimes they pop up. I think the first one that comes to mind is that we have to sacrifice ourselves to do valid altruistic work. And so ourselves could be energy and time, so we have to overgive that way, or money in our pocket. I remember so distinctly having, like, kind of almost wearing a badge of honor when people say, you're never going to make money in this field. I'm like, well, but I'm not doing it for the money. And so, and you can see it, so many therapists will say, but I feel bad charging more because then people can't access my services. And that is true. That I am not denying that accessibility is really limited. And there are lots of factors that go into who has more accessibility and who doesn't. At the same time, if we buy into, therefore, we also have to sacrifice, the problem is that we limit ourselves in thinking about ways that we can help. For example, therapy is one option, and you could also create a course that's $50 that somebody else might be accessible for them to access, and then they've got this course at their fingertips. So accessibility still is there with different offers and different prices. And the other thing is that if we're working at, let's say, for example, $100 an hour, and we do 2,500 a week, so 25 clients, I encourage everybody to sit down and do the math on if you actually arranged your proportions of maybe doing something higher ticket, higher, maybe an intensive with less time. So giving you then more time to have energy and capacity over here. And you could actually do pro bono work, or you could lower some rates, give a couple slots, or you could go volunteer somewhere because you actually have the energy. So if we're only doing one-to-one hourly framework, and we're thinking that's the only way to be accessible, we're actually limiting ourselves to be creative and to kind of restructure our energy. And we're limiting the ways that we can actually give to our communities because we're spent on the hours that we've already, utilized. And so then we go back to, okay, we'll just earn, or, to see 5 more clients a week. Yeah, that's maybe $500 more a week, $2,000 a month. But then what do you have left to give? And then that reminds me, it's not just left to give your community, it's give to your children, your family, your friends, because now you've got nothing. And so that's not helping anything. And that just makes the problem worse and is going to speed up burnout faster than you can say toothpaste. I don't know why that just came to
Wow. Yeah. And that makes so much sense to me in the way you kind of explained it. Because I think we know the standard kind of, I guess, program or schedule, I guess, is hourly, right? And we know that the default kind of industry standard is 20 to 25 hours per week, right? And you're so right that many clinicians have this idea that, they don't want to, they feel bad about charging more, it's kind of cringy. They don't want to feel salesy, all these terms. But in some ways, just like you mentioned earlier, we're kind of handcuffing ourselves, right? It's like, yes, you can see more clients, you can have the handcuffs on, and then that's just going to sap your energy even more, right? Leaving less energy for your family, your kids. And like we talked about earlier, you're putting more of your energy and resources into this hourly setup. But then what if something happens with the family member? What if you get hurt, right? Like this whole thing just kind of is in some ways like it has its own inherent set of risks,
Yeah.
and I love the way you said it, Amanda, that if you do make maybe a higher dollar value offer like an intensive or some kind of workshop, then that can open you up to design your system to where you can make accessibility a thing for people that can't afford your things in the first place, right? And so what I'm hearing is like you help. I don't know if you do this in your coaching, but what I'm hearing is that there are ways to design our work schedule and what we offer into the marketplace in a way that serves us, serves our clients, serves the community, gives us some of our time back, right? And gives us
Mhm.
some more of that agency, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
And with that, and we can put some notes. I can give you a link to put in the show notes, is looking at the numbers, playing with the numbers. And that's what I did when I went into private practice too, and I got offered a position at a group practice, and I played with the numbers and was like, okay, this is nice, this is the benefit, but what if I do it myself? And seeing the numbers over the course of a year, it was like, this is a no-brainer. I need to just open my own business. Well, same with looking at how you can diversify your income, is I've created a calculator where you can play around with different offers and how many units you could sell to be able to work fewer client hours, but still make equal. The calculator can do equal. It has built in there, like how many client sessions this would equal for your hourly rate. And because information is power. And it doesn't mean that you have to go that route. But when we can see the numbers on the paper or on the screen, we can see what's possible, to know that there are ways to make a difference while also funding you to be able to stay in the field. I mean, I think that's at the end of the day, is it does nobody any good if it makes you exit this career altogether.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Amanda, going back to your experience in these programs and how everything's segmented, why do you think the field is set up that way?
The hourly model, is that what you're referring to?
No, I'm referring to like the coaching programs where somebody wants to kind of expand beyond the one-on-one and they go buy a
Mhm.
program or they learn the business thing over here or they sign up for that course over there. But it seems like no one program's putting it all together. Do you think that's by design or what are your thoughts on why it's like segmented or fragmented like that?
Okay, so great question. I can't speak for everybody. What I know is that there are some people out there who are going to sell to you a quick fix. There is not an overnight magic thing. And I think that's kind of the trend of marketing. Let me give you this small thing and you're going to get a win immediately. And that's true. We want to give people those wins, but there are some people or businesses, whatever's going on behind the scenes, that they're more concerned about getting that short-term sale. And so some of us have experienced some icky sales, and there are other entrepreneurs. This is what you want to look for, is the entrepreneurs that are going to be honest about how hard their journey has been and how extensive their journey has been. If you listen to any truly successful multimillionaire, billionaire, they're going to tell you they didn't get an overnight win. They're going to tell you it took years and years to experiment and perfect and whatnot. That I love one of the coaches, mentors that I've learned from in the last year is he or somebody at his conference last month said, don't compare your step 14 to my step 298. And the mentor you want to look for is the one that's going to tell you about step 14
Mhm.
and teach you to be there so you can get to step 298. So there are some very incredible people to learn from. And it doesn't mean those other people aren't incredible and don't have value. It's just that maybe their business model is set up for the quick short-term customer. Here you go, you get this $27 course and whatnot. I can't speak for their motivations,
Yeah.
but that is something, even in my programs, is I'm always going to be honest and authentic about flops. I've had lots of flops, like
Mhm.
lots of things that didn't work, but also tell you how that fits into your entrepreneurial kind of development
Yeah.
of experimenting and seeing what your clients like and what lands well and things like that.
Yeah, and I really appreciate that transparency because I kind of compare it to like our clinical work, right? It's like you got to try things sometimes, right? You got to
Mhm.
kind of push and probe and like see what works, and sometimes that comes with the cost, and the cost is you can piss off the client. They can get re-triggered, right? But that's part of our journey as growing as a clinician, and it's so interesting because what you're saying is essentially the same thing, but in the business world, right?
Mhm.
You get better by doing the thing, and some of
Yeah.
those things just might not work, right? Like,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, and like it would be irresponsible of us for somebody to call on a consultation and go, "Oh, I'm going to totally get rid of your PTSD in 8 weeks." Like I
mhm,
promise you, I'll get, you won't have PTSD in 8 weeks. If
mhm,
we had that answer, we wouldn't have so many people walking around with PTSD,
right.
but we can say, "I'm going to get you on that journey. I'm going to help get you on the track to create transformation. And my promise to you is that I'm going to teach you some tools and we'll see if they work. And if they don't, we're going to pivot."
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. You mentioned the word marketing earlier, Amanda, and I like to
Mhm.
kind of hang out there for a while because I find that clinicians struggle with marketing themselves, marketing their practice, marketing their workshops, their groups, and maybe the ones that have kind of grown out of that a little bit, the extent of their marketing is like very small, I guess. Like they'll
Mhm.
share a quick flyer on a Facebook group, or you know what I mean? And so like why do you think that is? Do you think that this world of marketing kind of runs counter to therapist culture? Is it a values gap? Is it a skills gap? What are your thoughts?
I think it's both.
Mm,
I'm just kind of writing some notes. Um, and maybe, I don't know, maybe it originated from therapy, being so, I don't, this just, I've never thought of this before until now, but therapy being so intertwined with insurance. And like for my private practice, I didn't have to do marketing. I just had to have a good enough bio and website. And I looked at how to word my website and it was successful. It drew in my ideal clients, but I had to do very minimal, because I'd get on a list of insurance and they'd call and they go, "Well, I picked you out of a list." So there we go. And I was one who spoke Spanish, and one in the area, things like that. And so it's the skills of it not, oh, we're also not taught, like I don't know any of us that got in grad school got a marketing class and taught why marketing matters. But I think it's also values, because we can often confuse that we're selling ourselves, or we can confuse that um, we're trying to get something out of our client, because we have all experienced icky sales. Well, I can't say all, but I think a lot of us have experienced icky sales where somebody is not actually authentically wanting us to win. They just want the money in their pocket. And so when you're a helper, you don't want that your client to feel that way. And so it's about shifting then that marketing is is not you selling yourself. You are offering, you're creating an invitation to enroll, invest in the service, and enroll and invest in the process of helping yourself. For me, I happen to have a set of tools in my toolbox. I am inviting you in to try to use the tools that I have in my toolbox. And while one of those tools is creating the space, that is not selling myself. That is an invitation in to this experience. So there's got to be a shift there, thinking that. And then the skills is I want to call in the people I'm meant to serve. And if I'm in service and I'm genuinely saying, this is what I do, this is what I offer, it's then again that extension of the invitation. And so I'm creating skills in the marketing to be able to say it in language that my ideal client goes, "Oh my gosh, She's in my brain. Oh my gosh, she knows me, because what happens when we feel like somebody understands us? We want more of it. And
Yeah.
so then we want to engage. And it's like, okay, then I'm going to pick up the phone because this therapist, I think they're onto something.
Yeah, that's as you were saying that, Amanda, it just made me think about this word person-centered or client-centered,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like if you truly are client-centered, then in many ways, like marketing is kind of an inherent part of making your practice client-centered, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
I want to showcase everything that I have, all the tools in my toolbox, like you said, in such a way that is compelling enough for my ideal client to book a call with me so that I can be of service, right?
Yeah.
And as you're kind of saying that, and I'm thinking my way through it, it's that is probably one of the best ways to be client centered in a way, right? Like, or one of the
Mm-hmm.
ways is like you are
Mm-hmm.
marketing yourself, because if you're not marketing yourself out of reservation or your own values of being cringy and I don't want to get right, like then you're really not being client centered, like you're being self
Mm-hmm.
centered in many, right? Like, and
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
trying to be very careful here, but that's true, right? If you're letting your own values and beliefs hold you back from being the best you can be for your client so that they can make an informed decision, then right? Like, what are your thoughts on
Mm-hmm.
that?
Yeah. I mean, it makes me think of that coaching program that I was in. She really, really hounded the fact that when we are in service, it is not icky sales. When we are genuinely authentically being of service. And so then on my website, if I'm like, hey, I genuinely see you. I see that you're laying your head down at night, wondering what a burden you are, how you failed. That is me being authentic to, hey, I get it. And because I get it, I've created a toolbox to help you. Let's see what we can do together.
Yeah. Wow.
And that is me genuinely wanting to help someone, not the outcome of just getting paid.
Yeah. 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 And it's tied, as I'm thinking about your response, I'm thinking about like, we, it's important to develop that skill, right, of marketing,
Mm-hmm.
because we talked about this kind of golden handcuff. I don't know why I thought of
Mm-hmm.
golden. You didn't say golden, but these handcuffs, right?
Yeah.
Like if we want to expand beyond the handcuffs, so to speak, or one-on-one practice, we have to. Do we have to actually like kind of learn marketing? Like, is that kind of like one of the foundational skills to develop?
Yeah. And I breathe because I don't know that it comes naturally to a lot of us,
Mm,
because there's kind of an art form. It is not something that's coming natural to me. Um, and I think of it this way. I have gone to look for therapists before. Last year was the most recent. And I go through these, profiles, and they all read the same. And then they say their modalities. I can't tell anything about them. They, I don't want to go on a tangent, but every one of them saying I'm not judgmental. I hope so. I hope you're not judging me. And so seeing it on that lens as a consumer, I see how valuable it is to be able to go, how do I know this person is going to be able to help me? How do I know that they're going to help me get the transformation that I'm seeking, moving from this to that? And so marketing, when done well, clearly articulates that to the person that needs to be served or that wants to be served. And so the better that we get at understanding, the way that I teach is the more clear we get at who we genuinely want to help and how we help them, the more we can clearly articulate it to bring in that ideal person.
yeah. Yeah, and so it sounds like this part of your coaching program, or
Mm-hmm.
the
Yeah.
marketing piece?
Yeah.
Do you find, Amanda, that when your clients enroll into the program and they start learning the marketing and then they figure out who they're trying to serve, do you find that their marketing actually in many ways kind of energizes them? because like now they're like, this is my person, I want to help them. Like,
Yeah.
is it like an energizing thing, or is it like still like kind of the drag that most people think marketing to be?
Yeah, no, I love your awareness and question with that is yes, seeing people lit up, it then yes fuels it. I think what's
Mm.
behind that though is really helping people feel okay to want to work with specific people. It doesn't mean you don't care about other people. It doesn't mean you're bad for wanting to only work with highly motivated clients. You still have a caring heart. It's just that your unique makeup and where you're at, the chapter you're at in life, it's okay to try to fill your caseload with the people that light you up because that will give you more energy. And
Right.
then it gives you energy to be like, "Ooh, I want to create this." And, "Oh, I know how to say it." And so that's one of the things I put in one of my webinars. So it's interesting you mentioned that the more lit up we do, the more energy we actually end up getting.
Wow. Yeah, I might have been on that webinar. I don't know. Anyway, Amanda, um, wow, that's so cool. I like to talk about your program. What's the feedback been like from the clients that you've seen, the clinicians that join your program? Any success stories that you can share?
Yeah, absolutely. So overall, it's called the Passion to Profit program. The Passion to Profit Accelerator is my full, robust curriculum A to Z. But some people might sometimes see me do Passion to Profit beyond the one-to-one. But the Accelerator program is a live mentorship program with the full curriculum, and then we do mentorship calls. And then Passion to Profit on Demand is just the curriculum and course on its own. And one testament to the program really being successful is, for example, I'm finishing up the first round and just started my second cohort, and somebody from the first round re-enrolled to the second one because she got so much out of it and she's like, I want to go deeper. So she was like, this first year was just me learning all about the business stuff, and now I'm going to integrate. However, she's also already done, I think, 6 events. Her first event, she sold out. She had 20 spots. She sold it out.
Wait, hold on, Amanda. When you say 6 events,
Uh-huh.
like 6 of her, she hosted 6 of her own events. Is
Yeah,
that?
yeah.
Oh, wow, cool.
So she got, and even just seeing her lit up with her new niche outside of her private practice, has just been so beautiful. And so then what she's decided is instead of more clients, she wanted to do more group events. I think recently there was a New Year's, like a vision board kind of thing. And so seeing her light up and then have success with the events and then say, I'm going to re-enroll because there is so much in here. And just like a book, we can read a book the first time, be like, oh, that's awesome. And then we read it again and new stuff lands. So I think those are really, really great testaments to everything that's included and wanting to do it again. And I think the other thing that I personally just am really proud of with this program is it's not just business where you take these, you do these worksheets and these lessons. We also look at who you are as a person that's showing up in your business. And I create, a really gentle space to be able to, when the ego comes up and says, oh my gosh, I can't possibly put this product out there, nobody's going to buy it. We also create the space to be able to work with the ego to help it, like recognize it's just wanting you to be safe and not expand. And so it's got that integration of the interpersonal work to be able to live out these dreams.
Ooh, so yeah, that's so cool. So it sounds like you're removing some of those blocks, or at least bringing awareness to like what those blocks are there to do for you.
Right.
How very clinical, Amanda, but it's so cool because it's so true, right? Like we're literally applying some of the concepts of clinical practice into business because it's relevant and it's applicable. And you're so right. Like sometimes we do feel that hesitation or that reluctance or that fear, maybe, if I dare say so,
Uh-huh.
right? And like, but being able to recognize, like, hey, this is just this thing that's trying to protect me from whatever it is,
Yeah.
and then you have a community to help you through that. I mean, man, that yeah, those are the breakthroughs, right?
Hmm.
Dang.
Because, and that's what I think what, me going through the trials and errors is what has created this just beautiful, robust program because I was feeling like a failure. And then, and like when I put my book out, ooh, man, there was a few months before published date that it was like, oh, your worthiness stuff. Funny when you call your book Embody Your Worth, worthiness stuff comes up when you're like, do you really know what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Which we feel that as therapists too. Like we go and help clients with topics, and in our head, we're going, okay, are we actually doing that? Am I really the one to help them with this?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Wow, that is so cool. Man, I love that. Speaking of your book, Amanda,
Hmm.
can we talk about that for a second? Embody Your
We sure
Worth.
can.
Bam, look at
Yep.
that.
Yep.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about the book. How long it's been published, how like what where can people find it? All the things.
Yeah. So this was, like I mentioned before, it was this reflection on how did I get to a place where I wasn't in deep depression, wasn't experiencing PTSD, and I discovered that it's because I learned to love myself. And not just love it, but this is why I call it embody your worth, is to embody the practices. So not just like say affirmations, that don't actually like your ego's like, yeah, whatever. I don't buy that. And so it's part personal memoir sharing the evolution of where I was um, with the deepest depths of depression, excuse me. Um, and then concrete chapters on techniques to help embody your worth. The book is written in a way that it can be read. There's some sense to make by reading it cover to cover, but it's also written in a way to be very tangible because I included things that I wish I had had. Activities, concepts. And so if it's like, ooh, I really want to look at boundary setting, you can go to the section in the chapter that talks about boundary setting or assertive communication and communication techniques. So I really wanted it to be a book that if I were 20 years old again, 25, would have been helpful, one, to feel validated that I'm not alone and I'm not crazy, and two, to have some tangible tools. Um, I guess I officially published it, I think 2023, and you can order it directly from my website, alignandembody.com or embodyyourworth.com, either one. You can get it faster and potentially without shipping costs on Amazon. So either is an option. If you do order it from me, though, I sign it personally and send it to you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I did see, you know what? I didn't know that when I bought it from Amazon. I would have liked the signature copy. Anyway, yeah, that's so cool. And I really think it's awesome that you wrote your book and your experience. And in many ways, it's like for the younger you that needed those things and those skills. And that's really, really awesome. Amanda, I'd like to ask you one last question about the
Yeah.
kind of like the business piece and then kind of
Yeah.
close things up. You know, I wonder if for the therapists out there that's kind of struggling right now, maybe on the verge of burnout, they're stressed out, caseloads are going down, maybe like they're overwhelmed about whatever. What's kind of like one big takeaway that you like them to hear from this video?
I think the biggest thing to hear is the best thing you can do for yourself is to align your business to you. And that's also what I do in the program. And that's why I call my other company Align and Embody, because you want to align it to your real energy capacity. You want to align it to who you really do feel lit up by. You want to align it to your skill sets, all of that. I actually have, what I call the zone of impact. And so that's what you love, what you're good at. And that's called the zone of genius. That's a very common term, but the zone of impact is then adding in your values. And so what that can look like is if we're out of line with our values, with the work we do, being in an agency, for example, that is not valuing quality over quantity, you'd be out of alignment with your values. That's going to cause the burnout. And so really feeling validated that the best thing you can do for you is just own what works for you, not because somebody else is seeing 30 clients on their caseload, just being okay that it's okay that they're built differently and that they're making that choice and maybe they can handle it. And that for you being, an empath, that your optimal caseload size is 17. And yet you also like teaching, so you do some courses or trainings on the side. And being unapologetic, because the reality is that our work cannot be quantified. We're not working in an assembly line and we know that we have packed 50 boxes, quantified, easy. I get 50 boxes done in an hour. What we do, the holding of space, the holding of tremendous trauma stories and pain and suffering, holding the realities of being a human cannot be quantified. And so it is okay for you to assess and realign what your career can look like. And when you do that and you work in your maximum zone of impact, you actually end up being able to give more and then feel great about the impact you make, because you're not dreading getting out of bed every day.
Yeah, dang, that's so good. Amanda, why do you think it's so hard for people to do that from the beginning?
To be honest, one answer was I think about my own life. Man, I was capable of doing so much more when I was younger. And so I was eager. I couldn't wait to read psychology assessments. I was like, yes, bring me the court report. I just wanted to eat it all up. And so I had this energy. And I think maybe that burnout is not normalized in a way that, and it's not just burnout, it's the vicarious trauma, it's the compassion fatigue. That I don't know if it's the workhorse mentality, the hustle mentality that we're so indoctrinated into, especially from college and grad school, and just keep producing, that kind of clouds our ability to say, whoa, we've got to do balance. For what did they call it in the hospital with Ashton? We're running a marathon, not a sprint. We've got to figure out how to run the marathon, not a sprint. So we'll go with that answer for now.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, that's good. Amanda, this has been great. I really appreciate just all the information you've shared. If people want to reach out to you and kind of work with you, where can they find you?
The best route would be alignandembody.com. And you'll see different kind of products. I do have some clinician products, courses on documentation, and I'm doing one coming up on insurance nuts and bolts. And then also the different options I have to either you can do a coffee chat with me, or, get on my email list, whatever works. But that would be the most direct route. Or email me, actually, directly would be even the more direct route, is amanda@alignandembody.com.
Yeah, super cool. And also, you have a Facebook group, right?
I do. I do. I just
Okay.
started it. Really leaned into that. Um, One of the best things I've learned to do in the last year is say yes to things when it's a full body yes, and say no to things when it's not yet a full body yes. So it's a
Mm,
no for right now. And I finally was ready to open the group. It's called Passive Income for Therapists. And I'm really just wanting to create it as a space for people to learn and um, be able to ask their questions, maybe be able to share some tidbits and whatnot. And so it's up and running. We're getting it to
nice.
grow,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I'd
that's
love for
awesome,
people to
Amanda.
join. Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely, and maybe we'll put the link in the show notes. No, we will put the link in the show notes.
okay.
Amanda, thank you so much. This has been great. I really appreciate your time, and maybe we can do this again in the future.
I would love to. Thank you so
Yes,
much.
ma'am. All right, take care. Bye.
Bye.